I think there's a huge missed opportunity on Instagram that people are not taking advantage of that, because I look for people all the time on there. If I have a client who comes to me and they're like, I need a Kartra VA, I need somebody who knows how to use Kartra backwards and forwards, the first place I'm going to go search is Instagram. And if people don't have that in their title or their bio, they're not going to come up for me. And it might be something they're really great at, but people either don't have it or they use some kind of, they won't say launch email copywriter. They'll say like making your email snazzy. No, that's not what I'm typing into the search bar when I'm trying to find a launch email copywriter. You got to say what you do.
Hello and welcome to the Simple and Smart SEO Show,
where we provide tips and advice to improve your website's search engine ranking.
I'm Brittany Herzberg, SEO copywriter for holistic health and wellness pros who want to show up as the answer to a Googled question.
And I'm Krista Waddell, an e-commerce seller and content creator. I help business owners communicate the value of their products and services through content so you can make more sales and grow your business.
We're business besties who love learning and sharing what we've learned. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump in. We are back yet again for the Simple and Smart SEO Show. And this week, we have another one of my friends, Erika Macauley. We're going to be talking all things really like around titles and searchability of your title. And then who knows where else we're going to go with this. So Crystal, say hi.
Hello.
Erika, say hi.
Hey.
I'm like now the director for this thing. Okay. Erika, why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do? We're just going to jump right in with that.
All right. So like we said, I'm Erika. Hi. How's it going, everybody? I am an OBM, which is an online business manager, an integrator, which is a fancier word for an OBM sometimes, and a project manager. And that's what I do. I serve 67-figure creative entrepreneurs, and I really just get in the back end of their business and whip it into shape. That's a real quick way of saying what I do.
Okay, so before we hopped on here, Erika was just explaining that she lives in Canada now, but she spent some time in Bali and moved back to Canada briefly. Or not briefly, but she moved back to Canada in 2020. So I want to know what was going on in Bali. So could we talk about that for a minute?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Actually, Bali was my last stop on about 10 years of living abroad. I had left Canada in, I think, late 2011, early 2012. I was working a corporate job in Vancouver, BC, ready for a change. And so I actually first moved to the Caribbean and worked as a scuba diving instructor for 5 years. I know, random. I just thought it was one of those things where I just thought I'd rather look back and say, oh, well, than what if? And I just went for it and I did it and it was great. And then after that, I thought, this was awesome, but now I need to make some actual money. That's not a very lucrative profession. You really do it for the love of what it is. So from there, I moved to Japan for 3 years and taught English in the public school system, which was another incredible experience. I went on a government exchange program called JET, which was a lot of fun. It's still running. If people are interested in that, I encourage you to look into it. And from there, one of my friends who I actually met as a dive instructor had started a digital marketing internship program in Bali, where interns would come and do a 6-week boot camp, learn everything start to finish digital marketing, social media, SEO, paid ads, all this kind of stuff. And then we would send them out to scuba diving shops around Indonesia, and they would get dive training in exchange for them running the marketing for the shop. It was called Paradise Interns. It was an amazing company. I ran that with my friend Anna Cloth, who's an incredible marketing professional. And then I came home to Canada for 6 weeks in February 2020. And we all know how that went. I'm still here. I own a house. I have a dog. And apparently this is where I live now.
I'm here.
Wow. That is an amazing story.
It was quite a ride.
For those people who don't know, I used to be a teacher. I was a PE teacher. I'm like, oh, this sounds so interesting. My husband's still a PE teacher. So I'm like, maybe he might be interested in a little jet action.
There's all kinds of opportunities out there for people who want to go on an exciting adventure somewhere.
That is so cool. I didn't know any of that. That's also a really neat way that you went about getting your skill set.
Yeah, it's a lot of the skills that I have, the administrative and operational skills that I have now started all the way back when I was working as a corporate and securities paralegal in that desk job that I was so eager to get out of. And then along the way in all of those jobs, even though they don't sound like what I'm doing now, there was still a lot of it involved. When I worked as a diving instructor, there was a lot of management, customer service, record keeping, that kind of stuff. Working as a teacher, I had to be super organized, super prepared, be able to think on the fly, like strategy. Crystal, as a teacher, you know all about that. And then with this digital marketing internship program, that kind of tied in all of the marketing and online business, working remotely, that kind of stuff, which kind of all put it together in a big package that when I ended up back in Canada and found myself stuck living in my parents' basement being like, oh, what am I going to do now? I took it all and put it together. And that's how I started this business that I do.
So I have a question about this marketing agency that you're a part of in Bali. How did that concept even come up? Are you familiar with that particular backstory of how one starts a business and has multiple locations and then creates their own marketing intern program? That to me is so unique and interesting.
I think you would understand if you met Hannah Klotz. She's a real force of nature. And she was actually working as a dive instructor for a shop in Indonesia. She ended up as the director of marketing for that shop. And she had interns that she brought in. And it started as that and worked so well but really solidified the business concept, the use case for it. It worked. And then the program just got bigger and bigger. And by the time I got there, it was huge. We had interns at like 20 or 30 shops around Indonesia. There were several cohorts a year running. We were like just at the cusp of it getting huge and blowing up, and this happened. But Anna, as a marketing professional, did a fantastic pivot. She turned it into an online course. So we were at home in our basements, not sure what to do. And we took that entire program and put it online. And it is now the Pineapple Hustle, which is a digital marketing course you can take online and learn everything that we used to teach in the in-person boot camp.
Wow, that's so smart and so well timed. I know Crystal and I are just perpetually going to be on this if this video ever makes it out into the universe. Just like, what?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story, but I had to give the props to Anna for that. That was her brainchild. I worked as the COO of the company and I was the coach for the interns' content. So I was proofreading blogs, teaching SEO, teaching a lot of like basic English grammar and things like that sometimes people need reminders about. I used to work as a freelance content writer, so it was a really natural progression for me. I had a lot of background in content writing and SEO. So that really worked. When I came into the program, I was able to handle that side of things for them.
That's right. Because I remember one of the days, I don't know, last year at some point, Erika messaged me because you had seen, I think, an article where I was cited. Mm-hmm. I told you that I got that article feature because of Haro. And you're like, oh yeah, I used to use them. And I was like, what? So yeah, I forgot. I knew like bits and pieces of your story.
Yeah, it's such a big backstory. I don't get into it too often because it is interesting. When I say it out loud now, I'm like, oh, wow. But a lot of people, they just want to know like what I'm doing now and what do I do? But that's like the whole story of how I got all of those skills together and was able to put them into a package that made sense for a service provider now.
Yeah. I think it makes a case for the people who know the business the best are the people who are working in it. And I think sometimes business owners forget that, like they get a little bit hesitant or they get a little unsure or uncertain when they hear a term like SEO and they're thinking, oh, that's like outside of my knowledge graph or whatever. But when in fact, you actually know it the best because you're in it every day and you understand the processes and what it takes to make it work. So I just think that's just a really cool illustration of why business owners could be good at SEO.
So before we forget, because I did last time, although Brittany still came back and answered the question. How do you define SEO, or what do you say when someone asks you what is SEO?
As Crystal said, it can sound like a scary concept for people. And they're like, oh, you have to hire a specialist and it's really hard. And I don't really get what it is. It's this like concept that's out here that people don't understand. And the way that I always introduced it during this digital marketing internship boot camp that we did is in the most simplest of terms is just knowing what people are going to type into Google to find you. That's a really great starting point. If somebody's going to sit down, open Google and try and find you, what are they going to say? And that's what we're going to take and run with to make sure that they can find us. And I found that like that simple of an explanation has let people know that it can be a very accessible and achievable thing, because you're like, okay, I use Google. I know what I sit and type to find a car repair place or somebody who can do my copywriting for me. Like, I know what words I'm going to type in there. All you got to do is find out what everybody else is typing and go from there.
Exactly.
I thought it was neat that one of the terms you used to describe yourself was chaos organizer. That reminds me of SEO and keywords in general. As you start learning, like, these are the words people are using, or these are the words I want to use. So how did you take that from chaos to something that is like strategic?
What's up, future millionaires? This is Justin and Tara Williams, hosts of the Millionaire University podcast, the only podcast where you'll learn step-by-step how to start and grow your business.
The Millionaire University podcast is basically a free business course for dummies.
Tara!
I'm not saying they're dummies. It's just that we believe business shouldn't be overly complicated.
Gone are the days of spending thousands of dollars on education that puts you in a job that you don't even like.
With the Millionaire University podcast, you'll be able to create a lifestyle that you love and a business that actually supports it.
Follow and start listening to the Millionaire University podcast today.
Yeah, I think really getting to know how to use tools was a big step for a lot of people in that. There's where people, I think, start to get overwhelmed is when they start Googling stuff and then going to the related search terms and they end up down this rabbit hole. They're not really getting anywhere with it. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, now I got an Excel spreadsheet of 265 words. Like, what do I do next? I feel like that's the point where people feel like they can't get to the next step with it. And I think really getting a little bit more of an understanding of some of the SEO tools that you can use to give you insight about which ones would maybe be better to use, which ones you're more likely to rank, like being able to look at which ones your competitors are using. I think those are really like the useful next step once you have that big Excel list and you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Okay. So on that topic, what are some of your favorite tools?
Even if you can't remember the tool, can you remember your favorite thing about the tool, like why you used it?
For me, I really like seeing the competitor information on there. I like working backwards. Why not go see somebody who's already doing it, see what they're doing and figure out what they're using and work backwards from there. I think starting, and this applies to so many things, content writing, copywriting, like mapping processes and workflows, anything that we do in these businesses, like starting from a blank slate is so hard. Why not go look at somebody who did it, get some inspo. Let's not copy people. Let's not take things off. Let's not be gross about it.
Inspiration.
But, yeah. Like use that as a starting point and think, okay, this is what they're doing. This is how I could do it to be a little bit different with my unique selling proposition or whatever I'm doing. But I think why start with a blank slate if you don't have to? But just use what's available to make life easier for yourself. That's what I always say.
Yeah. What are some of the mistakes that you see people making? We can start there and we can work backwards from that. So when I say mistakes, like with titles and things like that.
Yeah, I think that people get afraid to use really niche, I'm Canadian, we say niche, really niche keywords and like phrases and stuff like that because they're afraid nobody's searching for that. They're not going to find it. And they err on the side of being way too broad and then end up on page 35 of Google when somebody's looking for it. Like, for example, if you're looking to hire somebody in your business and you go type in VA, you know what's going to come up if you type VA? It's probably going to break Google. Like, nobody's going to find anybody just typing VA into that. But if you're looking for a podcast editing VA, let's say, somebody who's going to work remotely, but edit your podcast for you, why not use that phrase, right? That's going to lead you to the person who's actually doing that instead of the social media manager VA or the content manager VA. So I think getting more specific is what I'd love to see people doing. Where I see people going wrong is just going way too broad and crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Like we were discussing a little bit ago, I've been doing a lot of research into UX design, and my specialty would really largely lie in UX research, more than like the actual design process, because that's just I'm not as strong there. But if I were to say, offer that as a service to other business owners to help them, what do you think, like position wise, I should do in terms of keywords and just positioning those keywords?
I love that question. And I think that really highlights the need for, or the importance of doing research, because while we know a lot of like some super niche industry specific terms, we have to balance that with, does your audience know? Are the people who are going to hire you know to type in UX researcher? Or is that even a term that they've heard of before? Even if we're going to brand ourselves on our site as a UX researcher, knowing what words people are going to use to try and find you is important, as everybody here knows, to be working into the copy, to be working into the meta description, getting it in page titles and stuff like that, so that it's easier for people to find you. So that even if you're like, hello, I'm a UX researcher, the words people are actually going to be searching to find you are also going to be appearing in there so that you'll come up in those results. And then they'll get to your site and say, oh, Crystal. Okay, I need Crystal. And I guess what I need is a UX researcher. They might not necessarily use those terms to get there. So finding that out first, I think, is a really key first step.
That's a good one.
I love that. And it aligns with this concept of UX, where there's lots of companies, especially ones that are getting millions of dollars invested in their product, where they're creating the product and it's, what have your users said? Or what's your potential audience said about this particular product? And they're like, we just know they're going to love it.
I know you.
And it's, you know what? But what if they don't? What if they don't? If they don't, then you have just wasted so much time and money and effort in creating something that no one wants.
I think it has to be the first step. Like, I can give you an example of a huge mistake I made with my own site. When I finally got a professional copywriter, I got a professional designer, I got this fancy new site. And what I ended up doing is my copywriter came up with a brilliant name for my VIP days. They're called Integrator Intensives, which I thought was like perfect for that. That's all I put on the page. And nobody's going to search for an Integrator Intensive because they don't know that's my VIP day. They don't know what that means until they land on the page and see what it is. But nobody's out there searching that because my brilliant copywriter made it up. That's where it came from. And I was like, why is nobody getting to this page? That's not what they're searching. They're searching for like VIP day with OBM or something like that. So that was a huge mistake that I made right off the bat. Like thinking, oh, I've got this like cool page and I've got this cool name. Like this is the best. Then not really thinking about what would my clients type into Google to find that. Because I know that they're not going to type the words Integrator Intensive. They don't know what that is.
Right. And that's really similar to what I did. Two different things. One is like I named my massage therapist marketing program Be Social because I thought it was cute and clever. And I was like, this is great. No one's looking for that. They're looking for Instagram marketing course for massage therapist. And then I would show up. So that was like my oopsie. But then my win was recently I actually wrote website copy for my dad, and he sells window replacement windows in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I wrote the copy, did the SEO strategy, but then he was working with another company that actually brought this website to life. So mind you, they've worked with other companies, they've have their process, whatever. His website was performing better, faster. And they were like, I don't understand what's going on. And I was like, Dad, can I tell him? Can I tell him now? So that's why I love bringing SEO and copywriting together, because I think that it really does give your words a strategy on your website.
And if you need help with keywords, and let's say you're not comfortable using tools yet and you're just trying to get started, the way that I really started researching keywords with SEO was just asking my husband, who is not a computer guy. Like he knows how to use Google to search for stuff that he's looking for, YouTube or whatever. But I'm like, what words do you think somebody would use, or what would you use to find this thing? And I just typed them down, or I typed them into my computer and then tried to categorize them into lists or whatever related words. But that was the way that we got started. And it was actually pretty effective.
In the course that I taught, I used to tell people, if you don't know where to start, ask your mom what she put.
Yeah, it's so true.
Because that'll give you, for most of us, that'll give you the like basic starting point of what somebody who's not familiar with any of that stuff would be typing in. And I also, something that I used that whole time that I was living abroad, I kept an expat blog. It was like the heyday of blogging. So I kept a blog that whole time. And something that really gave me good insight as a starting point was just looking in the back end of my WordPress site and seeing what terms people were searching and landing on my site. So without using any other fancy tools, without really doing any research, I could just log into the back end of WordPress and see what words people were ending up on my site after searching. And that was a really helpful starting point for me with a site like that.
Yeah. And now there's tools like Google Search Console, which is free, that does the same thing. So I've been keeping track of a couple of clients with their Google Analytics and their Google Search Console results. And I was just going over that with one today. And so we were just talking about it and asking ourselves questions and thinking, why is this word coming up now? And how can we prepare for next year? Because that's the other thing is a lot of this data, it only helps you look backwards. It can help you strategize for the future, but it cannot guarantee future results because we don't know what's going to happen 11 months from now. Look at the last few years. I just thought that was really important to talk about. And then also this idea that just because you have a website or just because you have a website designer and beautiful images and just this amazing website and amazing copywriter or whatever, if you don't do the work of SEO, it doesn't matter. And I think so many people are distracted by the visuals and just the actual infrastructure of having that set up. Like I'm checking off the box. I got an Instagram account. I'm checking off the box. I have a website. I'm checking off the box. I got an email address. It's okay. Those things are important, but what's more important is having a plan for how you're going to use them to grow your business. And I feel like the biggest mindset shift I had to get over when I was first thinking about SEO was the fact that my website didn't come with SEO built in. There was no magic formula to find these special words that people were using to find the product I sold, and they weren't hiding anywhere on the site. I had to physically do it myself or hire someone to do it. But those things don't just exist because you buy a domain name.
Yeah. And I think people can sometimes feel overwhelmed, like we talked about, and it feels very techy for them. A really easy place to start if you're a service provider, like SEO is not just for your website. Like when I'm trying to find hiring projects for clients and when I'm trying to find somebody for those, often the first place I start is Instagram. Like putting the right words in your Instagram title and bio, I can find you on there. But what I see, especially on Instagram, is either people, they're just following the formula. I help 6 and 7 figure service providers get more time back. Okay, that's not what I'm searching. I'm searching online business manager. I'm searching project manager, or I'm searching Kajabi expert, or I'm searching podcast manager. And I think there's a huge missed opportunity on Instagram that people are not taking advantage of that, because I look for people all the time on there. If I have a client who comes to me and they're like, I need a Kartra VA, I need somebody who knows how to use Kartra backwards and forwards, the first place I'm going to go search is Instagram. And if people don't have that in their title or their bio, they're not going to come up for me. And it might be something they're really great at, but people either don't have it or they use some kind of they won't say launch email copywriter. They'll say like making your email snazzy. No, that's not what I'm typing into the search bar when I'm trying to find a launch email copywriter. You got to say what you do.
Yeah, you do. So if you have ever seen my profile or like this video again, if it makes it out there, I have curly hair. I have never really had a curly hair cut, but we need some help over here. So recently we were looking, where can we go get our hair cut? So I was like, I'm going to find myself a curly hair specialist. So I'm really crossing my fingers this works out well, but that's exactly what I did. I went to Instagram. I'm looking at the bio. I'm looking at what she's got written in there, or just anybody, what they've got written in there. And I was looking specifically for like curly hair specialists. So that was one thing I wanted to touch on. And then a couple other things, going back to what you said, Crystal, about like how you were talking with John, or Erika, how you were like, just ask your mom what she would type. That is largely how I started getting into social proof, because I would go to my clients and see, okay, what did they already tell me? Or if I go ask them a question, what do they tell me back at that point? So testimonials are huge. Social proof is huge. Talking to people, whether it's your husband, your mom, like one of your clients, a stranger, that's big. And then the last thing was that, yeah, like your website doesn't come prepackaged with an SEO strategy, which I totally thought that it did. And once you start putting stuff out there, what I realized is you're going to be like, a strategy will be provided for you once you start putting words out there. I was showing up really heavily for a certain keyword that I don't even want to say anymore because it's related to massage and I'm trying to focus on copywriting. But I was showing up for this one key phrase and I had to really ask myself, like, is that something that I want to lean into or do I need to shift away from it? So just a few little loose ends that I had thought of that I wanted to tie up.
Marketers everywhere are getting creative. They're being asked to do more with less, and they are rising to the challenge. In this new season of the Brave Marketer podcast, we are exploring advertising in a brave new world, the challenge and the opportunity of changing consumer preferences within a volatile economy. Hosted by Brave Software, the makers of the privacy-respecting browser with a built-in ads platform that rewards users for their attention with the basic attention token.
Okay, so let's say someone comes to you for your services. What do you do for them in a VIP day?
So for VIP days, mine are fairly flexible because I find that the people who are coming to me for those are somebody who's not quite ready for a retainer online business manager. They don't need somebody long-term. They just have something that's not working for them and they want an expert to come help them fix it. So I've done everything in those from a business audit to getting them prepped for hiring and onboarding a team member and getting a complete hiring and onboarding workflow built out for them in their project management tool. Some of them don't have a project management tool and we build one. So they've been a lot of different things because I try to be flexible with them. I know that people sometimes, first of all, don't know exactly what they're looking for. They just know that they have these frustrations and they just want somebody else to take it off their plate. So those are the most common things that I've done in them. What I'm seeing a lot more now is people interested in a shorter version of that. So I do 90-minute strategy calls and I'm finding that everybody wants this like really quick, low stakes win right now. They just want to pick an expert's brain, get the answers that they need and get out the door. And that seems to be really what a lot of business owners are looking for, especially when they don't have those permanent members on a team yet to give them that strategy and advice like that. It's like an easy, as I said, like low stakes way. I don't know where this started, but it seems like a lot of people feel like to build a team, they've got to hire someone permanently or long-term or full-time or something like that. And there's just so many options out there. If that's not the right move, you can hire somebody on a project basis for a VIP day, for a strategy call, for all kinds of stuff. So I like on every single podcast I go on to put my message out into the world that if you want to hire somebody, they do not have to be a permanent full-time hire. Whichever coach is out there saying this, quit it.
I think what gets confusing is because in the online space, there's a lot of influencers who take up most of the space. And so if you come in as an online business owner and you're looking for advice, the people who have most of the ad dollars are going to get in front of you and it may not be a good fit for your business, but you don't know because you haven't been doing this long enough to really understand what direction you should go or what you actually need. And I remember about a couple of years ago, everybody was talking about how you had to have a VA. You have to have a VA and you have to give away these tedious tasks or these tasks that you shouldn't be doing. So it frees you up to work in your zone of genius and blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, yeah, I would do that. And then I forgot, like usual, like butterfly flew away. But then this girl reached out to me on Facebook and said, hey, I'd like to be your VA. And I'm like, yeah, I need a VA. I forgot about that. Yeah, you can be my VA. But I had no strategy. I had no plan. I didn't know what I was going to give her. I had no workflows. It was just such a mess because it's like these things are out of order. So what advice would you give for the business owner that's, ooh, that kind of sounds familiar. How would you help them get back in the right order?
Oh, let me go to town on that. This is my favorite question. Okay. First thing is exactly what you've just said. It is like these coaches are very big on just get a VA, but then they don't tell you what to do when the VA gets there. That's the whole part of how it works, is you have to know what to do when they get there. And before even that, like this whole just get a VA. Okay, what even is that? What is that person going to do in your business? I personally think is a very outdated term. That's the term I used when I started my first freelance business in 2010. VA for me, virtual assisting is an industry. It's support team members who are remote workers who are going to work online in your business, wherever your business is, brick and mortar, maybe it's online, but they're going to work remotely. So as far as I'm concerned, VA is an industry. It's not a job title, because it really means what does it mean? None of us know, right? Nobody else does either. And a new business owner definitely doesn't know what is a VA and what are they going to do in my business. So I think really what I encourage new business owners to do is to think about what is going to move the needle in their business. And is that something that they, as the business owner, the person with special sauce, needs to be doing? So if you're like, oh my God, making YouTube videos takes all my time. It's so much work. I got to set up the light. I'm recording for hours. Okay. But if that's what makes you money, a VA is not going to come in and record a video for you, right? You're selling, you got to be on the camera. But if you're like, I'm on YouTube all day, I love doing this. I'm doing the editing myself. I like doing the recording. I like setting my lights up. I like writing my scripts, but all of these emails in my inbox are going unanswered. And clients who are reaching out to me are not getting responded to. Maybe you're looking for an administrative assistant. Maybe you're looking for an executive assistant to help with that kind of stuff. Or if you're like, I'm doing my thing, I'm a copywriter and I love writing this copy and stuff. I don't have time for marketing. That's not the place where I want to be. Maybe you're looking for a marketing VA. Maybe you're looking for a social media manager, right? This big catch-all VA term really just gets people coming into their business. Nobody knows what to do because nobody is specialist in anything. End up not knowing what to give them. And they're like, do they do this? Do they not do this? What can they help me with? It's very confusing. If you hire a podcast editor, virtual assistant, you can tag that onto the back after you say what it is. A podcast editor, virtual assistant, you're going to give them the podcast editing tasks. They know that, you know that, easy peasy. Let's go to town and do some stuff and make some money. But if you're like, I have a VA, okay, awesome. What do they do? And then you start holding back, right? You're like, I'm not sure if I should give them the social media stuff, or will they book my travel for me when I'm going to go to this conference? Is that something they do? It's just this wildly undefined scope. And I think that doesn't set business owners up for success because they're spending too much time thinking about what do I give them and how do I give it to them and all this kind of stuff. And having a more defined role is going to be easier to know exactly what goes to them and what they know how to do.
And I find that it probably also eases that feeling of resentment, because I don't know if you guys have ever felt that, but I've noticed in retrospect, looking back, there's been 2 major times I felt resentment in my business, maybe 3, but I'm not going to include the family stuff right now. Let me include the family stuff. Let me start there. Okay. So let me just say I have all these wooden letters around that I need to pack up and ship. And John is playing with my son, Asher, which I appreciate. But I'm like, I need some help over here. And I'm the only one that can do this. Why don't you come over here and help me? And I'm thinking this in my head, but I don't say it out loud. So I'm starting to resent him for not reading my mind and coming over here and helping me and also playing with Asher at the same time. There's the first one. The second one is resentment of clients. I don't know if you guys have ever been here, but it's, I took on this project and it's way more than I thought it was going to be. Or I am a maker and I'm working on a project, but now I have 50 of these and there's just not enough of me to get all these done. So now I'm resenting 50 people. And then the third one was the resenting an employee or a contractor or whatever, because it's look, I'm paying you. Maybe we have a retainer, maybe it's an hourly fee, but if I have to spend more time training you for 3 months or more time fixing what you give me rather than just being able to take it and run with it, now I'm resenting you as an employee. So I thought a lot of those things, all three of them, I just want you to know I own that. That was my fault, right? Because number one, if I need help, I have to express it. I have to verbally tell somebody that I need help. The second thing, I raised my prices. anytime I start to feel any kind of resentful about what's going on, like I have to choose this work or I have to choose my life, I have to start selling it for more so I can get more of my time back. And that's been a really great strategy for me as a maker. And then the third thing is where you come in and all the things that you just said. You have to have specific tasks in mind. And I love how you said you can't outsource yourself. You can't outsource what you do. And just being able to recognize that, I think that's a really important mindset shift to make, and just to realize, okay, these are the things that I absolutely have to do. So is there a place someone else can help me?
Yeah. CEOs trying to outsource CEO tasks, to me, is a huge red flag. It tells me that they're super burnt out. They don't want to do anything in their own business anymore. They're trying to fob everything off onto contractors and team members, and they don't want to do any of it anymore. That they don't even want to do the things that they're supposed to be doing as the CEO, the revenue generating activities, the thing that makes them unique and special, that thing that they do that makes them money. They get to a point where they're just trying to outsource everything. And they're like, I'm going to grow and scale and just give everything to the team. At the end of the day, if you give everything to your team, it's your team's business. So you're not doing anything anymore. So for anybody who's feeling at that point, I would say time for a check-in with yourself. You are likely experiencing burnout. And even if you have all these great team members, you've hired your podcast editing VA, you've got your executive assistant helping you, you've got an online business manager helping you run stuff in your business, you still have to lead it. You still have to be the person who does the thing that you do. And you've got to be, at the end of the day, the buck stops with you as the CEO. So you can't, I know some people would love to, but you can't outsource everything. But there are definitely things you can outsource. And that's the kind of stuff you need to identify before you ever go looking for anyone. If I had $1 for every time I saw a post in a VA group that said, need a VA, 10 hours a week, $20 an hour, DM me. Are you kidding me? Like, to me, that just says somebody that's going to be a disaster start to finish. Like, you need to be able to tell people. And even if you don't know what that specific term is that you're looking for someone to do, if you know what the collection of tasks you want them to handle are going to be, people will use that to identify and self-vet and decide, this looks like a list of executive assistant tasks, or I'm a social media manager and this matches with the service that I offer. You got to say something about what you need to know what you want them to do before you can bring them in. Because if for these execution level team members, so not a management team level, like an OBM or a project manager, you don't have to tell me what to do. I know what to do when I come in. But an execution level team member, a VA, they need direction from you. They need instructions. They need guidance. They need your definition of done for the tasks. They need to know where the resources are to go find the stuff to do the task. And if you're already so overwhelmed and not prepared to do that, you are not ready to bring them into your business. You got to have that ready first before you can bring somebody in to help you. Because bringing them into chaos, I'm telling you right now, it's just going to add more chaos. It does not take it away at all.
Yeah, exactly. And I just recently, like in the last couple of weeks, found someone and linked up with her and we're ready to go. And she's starting this week. And even now, as you're saying these things, I'm like, what would we call her? What does she consider herself? Because honestly, she was working with another friend. This other friend and I have like very similar ideas of what we want our businesses to look like. Like, we don't want to build out and have agencies. I just want me and like some support people. And I did not even entertain the idea. Like, I remember when Crystal hired her VA, I was like, cool. If I had one, what would I do? I don't know. I feel like I should be able to answer that question. So I held off. And like, here I am. I started my massage business back in 2015, but I haven't had any help up until now. I've hired off like a couple projects here and there, but I haven't had any consistent help. So I had started making a list of, okay, this is time sucking my time and I'm not enjoying it. This is something I could hand off. I have a workflow for it. I just kept going down the list. And eventually this woman had an opening and I was like, sweet, can we work together? But I want to go back to her now and ask her how she would answer this, because I'm very curious, because I just went based on the person and the experience that my friend had with her.
Yeah. So I love that. I love what you're saying in terms of building out the workflow before you hire somebody. And then I just absolutely love too, but Erika, what you said about this is the definition of done.
Yeah.
So that both people are clear. I think so many times, just like with SEO, we feel like we know what the thing is. We call it that internal language or whatever, but it's the definition of done the same for you and for the person helping you. And if it's not, it's wow, think about the conflict that could be avoided there just by simply having a definition of what done looks like.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of, I think it's something that people don't hear enough of is that delegation is a skill and it's something that needs to be, it's a craft that you hone. Like you're not born innately being a great delegator, most people. So something that I'm often in my role coaching CEOs on is better delegation. And that's a massive part of it is if you can't articulate what your expectation is for the end result of that, it is very unlikely your team member can meet that. And that's not their fault. Like they're not given what the end result should look like. Whatever they come up with is then correct because you haven't given them any guidelines of what your expectation of what that looks like. And I think really being able to articulate that for the tasks in your business that you want to hand off is a huge first step. If you can say, this is what a finished client report looks like. It has this section looks like this. This is where these numbers come from. And it gets sent out before 9 a.m. on Tuesday. That's a very clear definition of done. Either that happened or it didn't. Either it looked like that or it didn't. But if you're like, yeah, just put some stuff together and try and send it out when you have a minute, you know there's going to be a problem there.
A little bit. And I think this goes back to what you said in the very, very beginning about starting from somewhere rather than starting from like a blank screen. It's just simply handing somebody an example and saying, this is an example of what I expect. That just, again, I feel like that eliminates probably 99% of any communication issues.
I feel like I have my marching orders. I'm like, all right, got to figure out what a title is. So keep on like keeping a list of things. No, this is great. And I know I really struggled with it for a long time because I'm not good at asking for help. I'm not good at delegating. I'm getting better. It's a skill I'm like starting to exercise, but it wasn't there for a long time. It's just like, yeah, pile it on. It's fine. There's room on the plate. I can get another plate. This is cool. At some point, you have to ask for help. Like you have a certain capacity and that's normal. That's to be expected. You're a human. So this is really helpful, I think, for anyone who's listening. And maybe this is like something that I need to start considering.
Yeah. Or just how to fix myself. Because really, I think that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this.
Yeah.
Because it's, hey, we're branching off by ourselves to have our own thing. And maybe there were some things that we didn't like back in the old life in terms of rules and hierarchies or whatever. But we have to have some version of that. Like it's like a maturity thing. You start to realize, oh, some of these rules that my parents set for me in my teenage years were actually for my good to help me survive and be able to live the rest of my life. I am just loving the fact that there's still solutions here. Like you can learn how to delegate. Because one last example for me, this is how horrible I am. I'm the type of person that rather than have a conflict with someone in the past, like a virtual assistant that had no real job title, rather than say, hey, this is what I really expect because I didn't really know what I expected. Rather than say, this is what I expect, I would just fix it. I would just take what was done and either do it over or add to it until it met my expectation. But that's not efficient. At the very least, it's not efficient. And you could call it a whole bunch of other things on top of that. I really appreciate this conversation because it just helps shore up some of those deficiencies that we might have as business leaders, that those job responsibilities that go beyond just being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility to bring on a team member. And I think people, especially recently, have felt it's a very flippant attitude. That's just go get a VA thing. These are people who are trying to pay their bills and who are eager to do good work for you and support you in your business. But it's a two-way street, right? You have to be prepared to know what you want, to be able to ask for it, to give them a solid onboarding and introduction to your business. And even if you're not great at delegating, to be having good check-ins with them and being able to be very honest and actively seek honest feedback too. There's a power dynamic at play when you're paying somebody else's invoices. So they don't always feel comfortable to tell you out of the blue, hey, it would actually help me do a lot better work here if you would give me the link to this before you ask for it or whatever the thing is. But I also think a lot of business owners beat themselves up about it, but it's just because it's new to them and they're not used to it. And my advice for that would be, if you're brand new and you're getting your first team member and you're not super confident or sure, I would hire the team member with the most amount of experience that you can afford, even if it's for less hours, because they're going to know what to do. They're going to be able to offer you guidance and teach you how to work with a team member like this, because they've done it in a lot of places before and they have a lot of experience, and they very likely can get more done in that fewer amount of hours than somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing, but you're like, yeah, paying someone $9 an hour, good for me. Like, it's, yeah, I got them for 35 hours a week, but I'm spending 28 of them redoing their work. You know what I mean? If you're new to it, that's what I would recommend. Go with whoever you can afford for the amount of hours that you can get with them, so that you get the benefit of their experience and they can kind of help train you, because it is a training process, learning how to work with a team member. And if you hire somebody with experience, who knows what they're doing, who's done this before, who's been around the block with the whole support team member thing, they're going to be able to give you a bigger bang for your buck than being like, oh, I got my 35-hour a week, $10 VA, look at me. But they're sitting there because you don't know how to delegate anything to them. And everything you give them, they're doing it wrong.
Exactly. And that's what you said on, I think it might have actually been Rick Mulready's podcast, where you were talking about this exact thing. And I was like,
I say this everywhere anyone will let me say it.
Really, that stuck in my head. And I was like, that's a really good point. So when I started opening up myself up to, okay, I need to look for some help, that was totally, I didn't care what the hourly rate was that she set. I was like, I know you're going to do good work. I know you've helped my friend with some of the exact same tasks that I need help with. And can you train newbies? And she's like, yeah, actually, like, this is part of my thing. And I'm like, perfect. Cause I get that, because I trained air quotes, my massage therapist clients. They would come in. They've never been to any other massage therapist. I'm like, cool. I get to tell you, I get to show you what this should look like. I get to set expectations. I get to let you know what's normal, what's not normal. I'm like guiding them through this thing. So I explained that to her and she's like, I got you. Like, this is totally what I do. So that's exactly what I was looking for. I'm new. Tell me where the like bumpers are. Help me figure this thing out. I like setting people up for success. And I think that was a big reason why I held off for so long, because I knew that so much of this stuff was still in between my ears and it wasn't out on paper or something that I could explain. And I knew that wasn't going to help set someone else up for success. So listen to what Erika said. Go back and rewind it to what she just said.
Okay. So I have one final question, I think, because wow, this is a great episode. But you talked about when you go to look for your clients, because it sounds as an OBM, one of your job responsibilities is to fill these support roles for your clients. Do you use other social media sites or like that kind of a search engines like you do with Instagram? And part two, what would a great bio look like? Not just this is what I do, but what do you love about a bio when you're like, this is going to be a great fit for my client?
I want to talk about the bio first, because this is where I think people can really get the most bang for their buck and I can get what I need. So as I mentioned, if you want to put your like cutesy thing that you made up on it, great, but also put what you actually do so that when I search that thing, it's going to come up. If you have a business Instagram, please have a link to something. Put a link to a link tree, put a link to your website, put a link to your services guide. Because if I find you and you're like, Kartra VA, and I'm like, perfect, I'm looking for a Kartra VA. And then I message you and it goes into your requests folder that you never check. And there's no other way for me to find you or get a hold of you. When I'm running hiring projects for people, like, I don't have time to go search you on the internet and try and find something that way and find your email address. Like, give me the email button. Give me a way to talk to you. Another place that's an emerging search engine that I really want people to be aware of is TikTok. Especially like, I'm a millennial, but especially like Gen Z, they are using TikTok like a search engine and people are sleeping on it. That is a place where if you have that, it's worth focusing some effort. Because I've found people through searching on TikTok, and that's like Gen Z is using TikTok like Google. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but that's what they're doing. They're searching on TikTok first because they're like, I don't want whatever Google's going to feed me when I type this in. I want to see a first person account, which is why they're using that. And then from there, I don't do a ton of searching. I'm mostly posting and hoping people will find my posts. So I do a lot of posting in like Facebook groups where support team members are looking for work. I submit to like requests for proposals for OBM organizations and stuff like that. But when I post my job, you're never going to see looking for a VA 10 hours a week, $20 an hour. Maybe I'll put the time zone. No, like my job descriptions are like this long, but it helps people who are searching for stuff in the Facebook group, right? You can use the hashtags with like job op and stuff like that. And then I'm really clear about the job title, who I'm looking for, responsibilities, tech stack, pay. I always put the pay in it. That's my other soapbox point. Put the pay on your job descriptions. Okay, I said it. But I put a lot of information like the tech stack, like the role, like the responsibilities, a really clear title, because the best way to get good people to apply for your role is to be explicitly clear about what you want from them and what the role entails, because self-vetting for people at that stage, for candidates at that stage, is going to save you days of reviewing these applications. The more clear you can be in that job description, the better applicants, the better matched applicants are going to apply for that job. So I like to put as much as I can into it so it's easy for people to find when they're searching, stuff like that. But yeah, as far as like just me actively going out to look, I do a lot of Instagram and some TikTok now.
I love that because that's definitely what I do. And if anybody is listening, I know we have a whole episode on the Instagram and using it, but for simplicity's sake, the bold text is really what you need to do some work for you. So it's really not the best place to put like Brittany, copywriter. Like that's where I put SEO and case study copywriter. And I've even had people say, hey, I found you because I searched for case study copywriter. So, what? Really? This works? Yes, it works.
It works. Everybody go change the bold text right now. If you got something weird in there, go put something that actually says what you do and put the weird thing in the non-bold text underneath. I'm not saying get rid of it. Just saying put it in the right spot so I can find you. I want to give you a job. If you're looking for work, I want to give you a job. I have people hiring me to run hiring projects all the time. I want to give you work, but I need to be able to find you.
Yes. Totally support that. Okay. So after that epic mic drop, where can people go find you and connect with you if they're like obsessed with you as much as I am? And now they're like, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I'm on there with a normal title in my bio. My Instagram is Erika_Macauley. It's ERIKA_MACAULEY. You can find me on my website over at erikamacauley.com. I've got all kinds of stuff on there. If you're a new business owner, I've got a lot of free blog posts you can read about hiring support team members, who to hire first, who does what the heck is an OBM anyways, all that kind of info is all over there. So those are the two places you can find me.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much for being on with us. This was really, like Crystal said, like this was totally a great conversation. We could probably keep talking to you.
Oh, people have to cut me off. I would go on forever.
Yeah. Thank you for being so gracious in your answers, and definitely appreciate all of the shares that you gave today because it was so helpful.
Absolutely. And if you are a business owner who is still, I really don't know who does what here, and I'm new to all this, where do I start? I've got free hiring cheat sheets that people can access if you go to erikamacauley.com/hello for the low price of getting on my email list. You can get access to those, which has some more explanation about who does what. And I talked a little bit before about the difference between the execution level team members and management level team members. I've got some links for where you can go to find people. And I've got a full job description. Like we said, we don't want to start from scratch. Look at what somebody else did and go from there. You can copy it. I don't care. There's a link to the Google form I use for hiring. It'll really set you up for success. If you're a support team member who is looking for work, the way that I find people for that is I have a super secret email list where I post open roles. So if that's something you're interested in getting on, it's erikamacauley.com/hiring list. And you will hear all about the open roles that I have.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Crystal and I again over here with jaws dropped.
Yeah, I'm getting on everybody's email list.
Get on the list. That's where the good stuff's on the list.
It is. I'm going to have to start saying that too, for the low price of getting on my email list.
I know. It's free, but you got to give me your email.
Yeah, totally worth it.
You'll have at least 2 new signups.
Thanks again. This has been really amazing.
Yeah, this was super fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for joining us today.
If you like this info, subscribe before you go, so you never miss out on something related to SEO.
See you next time.
Hey guys, this is Crystal, one of your co-hosts from the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast. If you're looking for a unique, handcrafted way to spruce up your home or office, then collagenwood.com is the perfect place for you. We are a small, woman-owned business that offers a range of beautiful wooden signs for your home or office. Our talented team of artists will work with you to create a sign that perfectly suits your needs. So why wait? Use promo code SIMPLE10 to save 10%. Visit collagenwood.com today. Save 10% with promo code SIMPLE10. That's collagenwood.com.